For 5, I'm actually going to go Clyde the Glide Drexler. All right. Clyde was a baller. All right. He was at one point, people were saying, like, oh, is he better than Michael? And then that's when Michael actually gave him the buckets. But yet and still, that's besides the point. The point is that he, at one point in his prime, was obviously the second best shooting guard, but he was an amazing player. So I got to give him credit for that. All right. So number 4, I'm actually going to go Dwayne Wade. Now, Dwayne Wade actually is one of the players that got me really interested into the NBA. All right, Kobe's a big part of that, but then it also was Dwayne Wade. I remember watching the Heat versus the Mavericks, and I'm just like, this dude is good. Like, this guy is great. And this is with a over-the-hill Shaq, and he put the team on his back, and he balled out. And the Mavericks actually had a really good squad. Like, their squad was better than the Heat, in my opinion. But yet and still, they won, and that obviously meant a lot. Then LeBron came by, and he won some more championships. So he got the rings. He has the final MVP, and he is straight up baller. All right, so where we at? We have 3. We're going Jerry West. All right, the silhouette of the NBA. Jerry West is a walking bucket. All right, he is a loser. All right, but he's a great loser. All right, even though he won 1. But he lost 11. I mean, he lost 10 championships. That honestly has got to be the most heart-wrenching thing of all time. I couldn't imagine losing 10, but at least he got that 1. But at the end of the day, he was getting bucks no matter what area you put him in. I think that he just knows the game of basketball, and you see that from when after he retired, becoming one of the best ever as being an executive, and that means a lot to me personally, because that means that you really do know the ins and outs of the business and the game. And that takes you no matter what area you're in, what decade you're in. If you're smart enough to play, your skill's going to also follow, because he obviously had the skill back then. I believe his skill will also follow now, but he also has the brain for it. So he's number 3. He honestly could have been higher than 3. Could have been 2 possibly, but he just didn't win enough. I'm sorry. You can't have 10 L's and I can put you in front of Kobe. And number 2 is Kobe. I mean, at the end of the day, he's one of the most popular players ever. He came up with, I mean, he has the whole Mamba mentality, which is pretty much a phrase now. I mean, he's clutch. Yeah. and if you're going against him, you're scared. You're terrified, because you don't know what this dude's going to do. But you know he's going to get you buckets, but you don't know how he's going to do it. He might drop 81 on you. Like, that's a scary man. He's a hardworking dude that studied the game, that studied his opponents, that is a major trash talker that's gonna hurt your feelings on the court and also verbally. Like, I'll never forget the fact that he said he learned Luka's language just to talk junk. That's a whole nother level of disrespect. Like, I'm talking about to learn language just to talk trash to you, and I'm not even playing the game. So he's ultra competitive. He's a great shooter, plays defense. I mean, he's a winner. He put the team on his back and beat the Celtics. I mean, like, we can't sit here and just, like, downplay this man's greatness. The guy was great. All right, won 3 rings with Shaq, and then was like, I'm gonna win my own. Did it on his own. Well, Paul Gasol was a good player, but at the end of the day, he did it, led the team, and was amazing. Number 1, don't need to say anything, Jordan. Cool. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, for the first time in like the history of world, we have the same exact list.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. First time ever. So instead of me I'm just gonna touch on why I think all these players are great. Clyde Drexler, man. Honestly, if Michael Jordan never existed, this guy would probably be considered like way better than what he's perceived at today. He was 6'7". He has over 40-inch vert. He dunked on Isaiah Thomas from the free throw line. I have the footage. It's crazy. He did that in the finals, by the way. So he's been to the finals on his own as the best player twice in that era, which is crazy. He did that. He got back to the finals in 92 when he played Jordan, but he also got to the finals in 1988 against the Bad Boy Pistons. So he was able to lead his own team. He also was able to put up numbers. He averaged 27, 7, and 7. He averaged 8 rebounds and 8 assists in the same season. He averages over 2 steals a game for his career. He had the defense. Great player, great athlete. And if he was playing today, he would get a lot more respect. But because he was overshadowed by Magic, Bird, Jordan, nobody cares really. And he even has a ring and nobody still cares. So there you go.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wade has a really weird career where it's really up and down, but I really value what Dwayne Wade did in the 2006 season. That's literally the only reason why I have him over a lot of people. He averaged 35 a game or something like that. It was over the last 4 games he averaged over 35 in that finals when they beat the Mavericks. His team wasn't really there to help. Shaq averaged 14. Antoine Walker averaged like 14 in that finals. That team really wasn't that good. Dwayne Wade put him on his back, and I think that's the most important thing in ranking basketball players. Can you lead an average team to the promised land? Dwayne Wade did that on the biggest stage, averaging over 30. Then even you go to the first year LeBron got there, that got forced to a game 7, and the Heat managed to win that. Dwayne Wade was going to be the Finals MVP. He was lighting the Mavericks up. So Dwayne Wade was there, but the thing that people do, they take a backseat to a great player. I feel like that kind of hurt his legacy. Because people like me don't really, you won a ring with LeBron. Like, I don't really care about that. But it sacrificed his numbers, him doing that. So that's why he's at number 4. Number 3, like you said, Jerry West. He's 3rd all-time in playoff points per game. Nobody can really stop Jerry West. It's really weird because he was also a point guard half of his career. So, but people put him at shoot guard, so whatever. He's a shoot guard, whatever. But he can give you over 9 assists a game. He can give you 30 points a game. He won a Finals MVP in the finals that he lost, averaging like 37, 7, and 7. If you actually go back and watch the finals that he lost, a lot of it was like luck. Like, not trying to be funny, but people was making some like circus shots to beat him in the finals. And one time he hit a half-court shot to send the game to overtime, and it was only counted as 2 points because there was no 3-point line. So you would hate to see like Jerry West with an actual 3-point line because he would be getting way more buckets. But that's Jerry West. Obviously, Mamba is number 2. There was really no debate here. He has 5 rings. I feel like people forget that. Like, yeah.
The thing is, when he was alive, he didn't let you forget it.
Yeah, but but people talk about Kobe like he has like 1 ring. He has 5.
They discredit the ones with Shaq though.
And the thing with Shaq is Kobe was a great player. It's the same thing I do with the Steph Curry, Kevin Durant thing. Like, okay, somebody won Finals MVP, but somebody else was averaging. Like, Steph Curry didn't win Finals MVP one year, but was averaging like 29 in the finals, so 28 and 9 in the finals. It's like, yeah, he's still playing way better than Kawhi Leonard, who averaged 18 a game and won Finals MVP. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that kind of stuff matters to me. Like, are you dominating or are you not? Because there are people like Andre Iguodala and Kawhi Leonard who were not dominating in any facet of the imagination, but they won Finals MVP. So Kobe was still dominating. And if you go back and watch the series where they played Reggie Miller, Kobe actually got hurt because Jalen Rose slid his foot under him. He sprained his ankle, and they actually lost the game. Kobe didn't play, and Kobe was playing hurt. So they barely won that. And then Kobe had to fight through injury for that. And I just feel like as time goes on, we've kind of like made up this figment of imagination of how good those Lakers teams was, but they weren't really that good. It was really like Kobe and Powell and the rest of the guys, and people forgot that. Andrew Bynum probably has the worst final stats I've ever seen in my life. Don't ever put those in front of my face, ever. But Kobe really, another thing like Dwayne Wade did, he carried a pretty average team to the promised land. And if you go back and look at it, not a lot of players have done that. Only like 3 players have done that in the history of the game. So I really value that with Kobe. Now with Jordan in the actual top 10, I didn't touch on anything because he's clearly the GOAT. But because this is a position thing, I'll tell you why he's
go ahead. I don't need to.
10 straight scoring titles. That nobody will ever do that again. Wilt didn't even do that. He shot 50% and averaged 30 points. Not many players have done that.
That's career, by the way.
Yeah, almost. He won Defensive Player of the Year as a guard. people always say Scottie Pippen didn't win Defensive Player of the Year because they give it to the big man. Jordan actually won it in 1988, so that doesn't even make sense. But Jordan was Defensive Player of the Year. He has 10 straight scoring titles. He's 6-0 in the finals, and most importantly, y'all really hyped those Bulls teams. And one thing that almost made me throw up when I saw that list from ESPN, they had Scottie Pippen as the 21st greatest player of all time, but had Clyde Drexler at 58. Scottie was never better than Clyde. He was over Charles Barkley. He was over Kawhi Leonard. I don't know what the hell this is, but if you go back, The Last Dance is showing you these Bulls teams weren't that good. They just had Jordan. If we're being honest, the second three-peat, Scottie wasn't the same player. He wasn't that good. He had a back injury. The first three-peat, he was a good player, but he was never the best player in the league. Stop that, okay? He finished third in MVP vote 1 year. Cool. Anything else? Stop it.
I will say though, one thing that I found really interesting in the documentary is how like Steve Kerr basically said like the reason why they were so good in the next year was because that they had a championship foundation and they were just coming off a good year, so they kind of was riding that wave. But then after that, the reality kicked in. I thought that was a very interesting note that he kind of put.
Yeah, I mean, that camaraderie is a thing, you know. But this whole idea of everybody trying to hype up Luke Longley and Bill Wennington, like, stop it. Those teams were bad teams. Compare those to any teams, the Bad Boy Pistons, the 86 Celtics, the Showtime Lakers. Compare it to the Heatles, Golden State. Just think about it. Those teams weren't that good. You saw in the documentary when Pippen gets hurt, Jordan is like, yeah, I had to rely on Dennis Rodman. Like, you had to rely on Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman was like the 8th best player on the Bad Boy Pistons. And he was better then. So it's just like, that shows you why Jordan is way better than everybody else. Now, my honorable mention, I hate to do this because I hate this guy's basketball game, but
James Harden.
James Harden is definitely...
We agree.
He's averaging 35 a game. Now, granted, I think this 35 a game only happens in this era, but you got to give him credit for
manipulating the game.
You got to give him credit for averaging a lot of points and most importantly, like, leading his team to a lot of wins in the regular season. He doesn't keep that going in the playoffs, but there's a certain thing that him and actually Chris Paul has been able to do really well also, is in the regular season, they can carry an average team to 50 wins. Just in the playoffs, you already know.
So why do you, but my only question is, why are you so disrespectful towards Chris Paul and not James Harden?
I hate James Harden way more than I hate Chris Paul.
But how's he on your team?
James Harden is just better. He led his team to a Western Conference Finals like 3 times. Chris Paul has never done that. The only time Chris Paul was in a Western Conference Final, he was on James Harden's team. James Harden is just better. I'm sorry. He's better, though. But, you know, James Harden is... I hate him, but he's still good. I can't.
Not as a person. He's talking about he hate his game.
Yeah, I hate his game. I mean, let's be real. If he was playing against the Bad Boy Pistons, he might be getting like 3 points a game because they not calling step back 3. I did a broad jump into the defender and they call foul. Like, that's not gonna happen. But James Harden is great, so he gets buckets. Definitely gets buckets. He would get buckets in any era. But I just think he's better suited for this era. So he's definitely honorable mention. And I'm gonna just say this: I'm not saying he's the seventh best, but Reggie Miller doesn't get enough credit for carrying average teams. Also, Reggie Miller went to the Eastern Conference Finals 7 times in the 90s, and he was hurt one of those years. I mean, like I said, Chris Paul didn't do it at all. But Reggie Miller did it how many times? The numbers aren't there, but if you look, all of the clutch shots are there. He was the best player on the team. He was the leader of the team. So I'm not saying he's the 7th best shooting guard of all time. I'm just saying I don't think he gets enough credit.
All right, cool. Thank you guys. And next would be small forward.
The second deepest position in the whole thing.
Fact.
Thank you guys for watching. I ain't gonna lie, and neither should you.